Pregnant wife sees billionaire husband cheating with mistress. Instead of crying, she makes him. In a luxurious San Francisco mansion perched on a hillside, Caroline Myers leads a life many would envy. Her home's marble floors sparkle beneath imported Italian chandeliers, and every corner of the estate showcases the opulence that comes from marrying Blake Gregory Myers, a billionaire tech mogul. To an outsider, Caroline appears to have it all: unlimited wealth, a glamorous social sphere, and a husband whose name frequently graces the covers of Forbes. Yet behind the scenes, cracks are forming in this polished facade. Caroline's upbringing in a modest home in San Jose gave her a grounding in honesty, loyalty, and hard work. Nothing foreshadowed that she would marry a man running Apex Innovations, a global titan in cybersecurity. She met Blake at a Silicon Valley conference, where he was the keynote speaker and she was on the planning committee. Their first moments exchanging jokes about spilled coffee and talking under city lights sparked a swift, intense romance. Within a year, they married in a splashy Lake Tahoe wedding that fused love and spectacle. Initially, Caroline relished the whirlwind of private jets and lavish dinners. Blake, for his part, seemed down to earth despite his soaring success. The couple spent spontaneous weekends in Napa Valley and chatted late into the night about building a family. Caroline felt blessed to have found a husband who, at least for a while, balanced corporate ambition with genuine warmth at home. As Apex Innovations soared to new financial peaks, Blake's schedule intensified. Business deals piled up, and he flew incessantly to meet investors from Europe to Asia. Caroline found herself increasingly alone, her once attentive husband buried beneath a fortress of obligations. She rationalized that being the CEO of a leading tech firm demanded brutal hours. The seeds of unease sprouted gradually, fed by the nights she spent alone in their enormous estate, hearing the echo of her own footsteps. Her hope rekindled when she discovered she was pregnant. She imagined that sharing the baby news would reawaken Blake's enthusiasm for their marriage. Initially, it seemed to work. He greeted her announcement with misty eyes and lifted her off her feet in celebration. Yet the next day, he left at dawn for a lengthy trip to New York. Their fleeting moment of intimacy gave way again to business calls, absent dinners, and truncated text exchanges. Caroline clung to optimism. She believed that once the baby arrived, Blake's paternal instincts would anchor him closer to home. But as her belly grew, so did her realization that the man she loved might be drifting off into a different world, one governed by public deals and hidden truths. Caroline's close friend, Nancy Geller, is a lawyer unafraid to speak candidly. Over a casual visit one afternoon, Nancy hinted at disturbing rumors about new investors tied to Apex Innovations, particularly a young socialite named Trixie Turner, who was rumored to be in Blake's orbit. The mention of Trixie's name sent a pang of dread through Caroline. Though Nancy did not have definitive proof of wrongdoing, the whispered rumors pointed to something far more personal than standard investor relations. When Caroline raised Trixie's name in conversation with Blake, she saw the fleeting panic on his face, the tense set of his jaw. He downplayed any connection, insisting Trixie was introducing him to her father's investment circle. Still, the friction in his demeanor was enough to deepen Caroline's apprehension. She tried to remain calm, as if her pregnancy was a shield against stress, but each new doubt scraped at her composure. Late one night, when Blake left for a crucial investors' dinner, Caroline's worry swelled until she took matters into her own hands. She recalled hearing that a high-profile tech soiree was taking place at the Meridian Hotel in downtown San Francisco. Driving herself there under the cover of darkness, she slipped into the rooftop lounge. Surrounded by CEOs and glittering socialites, Caroline searched for her husband among the crowd. She found him laughing in a corner with a beautiful blonde Trixie Turner, who looped her arm through Blake's and led him to a private suite. Caroline quietly followed and spied them through a half-closed door, witnessing an unmistakable kiss. Blake's arms encircled Trixie's waist, returning her affection with deliberate tenderness. The sight of this intimate betrayal shattered the illusions Caroline had clung to. She stifled a cry, fury and heartbreak mingling in her chest. Instead of confronting him on the spot, Caroline retreated, her shock crystallizing into a fierce resolve. She was no meek bystander. If Blake chose to risk their marriage and her unborn child's security, then she would respond by defending herself and exacting a reckoning that neither he nor Trixie would forget. Caroline confided in her friend, Danielle Mitchell, who encouraged her to remain calm and strategic. Danielle pressed Caroline about her financial or legal footholds within the marriage. While Caroline owned a minority stake in Apex Innovations, it might not be enough to force Blake's hand. Yet the question of leverage hovered, prompting Caroline to examine bank records. She uncovered something particularly distressing. Repeated withdrawals from the baby's future savings account, funneled to a shell company labeled TT Enterprises. The acronym matched Trixie's initials, hinting at a shadowy arrangement. Caroline's heartbreak ignited into rage. This wasn't just infidelity. Trixie was also siphoning funds earmarked for their child. Driven by righteous anger, Caroline turned to Nancy Geller and explained the scope of the betrayal. Nancy introduced her to Michael Price, a seasoned private investigator adept at unearthing corporate malfeasance. Michael listened as Caroline described her suspicions, taking meticulous notes on Trixie's background, the suspicious consultancy fees, and possible ties to Apex Innovations. Together, they formed a plan to gather ironclad proof. Over the next few weeks, Michael reported back with escalating findings. TT Enterprises was incorporated under dubious circumstances, registered in a state with LAX corporate laws. Trixie's father, Gregory Turner, had potential hidden stakes in Apex. Trixie regularly appeared on Blake's arm in exclusive restaurants, boutique hotels, and high-end events, behavior that went far beyond business. All the while, Blake continued to present a veneer of normalcy at home, kissing Caroline goodbye, asking politely about her prenatal checkups, and occasionally claiming he was too busy to attend her doctor's visits. Caroline kept her composure, feigning ignorance of his double life. Her pregnancy now visibly advanced. She found it harder to sleep, often replaying memories of that damning kiss at the Meridian Hotel. She decided simply confronting Blake about the affair wasn't enough. She wanted a more potent strategy, one that would protect her child's financial future and hold both Blake and Trixie accountable. Caroline arranged a grand charity gala at the mansion, ostensibly to highlight Apex Innovations' philanthropic wing. She planned the event for a date she knew Trixie would be in town and insisted that Trixie be invited under the guise of forging philanthropic connections. Blake, relieved that Caroline seemed to be throwing herself into social engagements, supported the gala idea. Unbeknownst to him, Caroline secretly coordinated with Michael Price to bug the private study in the mansion. As the gala approached, the estate teemed with caterers, florists, and event planners. The marble floors gleamed with fresh polish, and the entire property radiated extravagance. By the gala night, the house was alive with the clink of champagne glasses and mingling elites, tech magnates, politicians, society icons. Caroline greeted guests in an elegant emerald gown that draped gracefully around her pregnant belly. Blake, wearing a polished smile, appeared every inch the benevolent billionaire host. But tension simmered beneath the surface. Late into the evening, Caroline guided Trixie and Blake into the study, pretending they needed to finalize a donation with an important donor. Once inside, Michael discreetly locked the door from the outside, ensuring that Trixie, Blake, and Caroline were temporarily enclosed alongside strategically placed recording devices. Caroline confronted Trixie about the suspicious consultancy fees and her attempts to siphon funds from the baby's account. A mixture of anger and discomfort flashed across Trixie's face. Blake demanded that Caroline avoid a scene. Trixie, in turn, threatened to smear Caroline publicly. At last, Trixie revealed the true depth of her influence on Blake, all the while ignoring Caroline's presence. That was exactly the moment Caroline unveiled the trap. The entire conversation was being recorded. In a single stroke, Trixie's hold over Blake became worthless. He stood there, aghast, while Trixie paled at the realization that her financial misdeeds and adulterous relationship were no longer secret. Nancy Geller and Michael Price, waiting outside, then entered with documents linking Trixie to fraudulent transfers. Trixie fled, furious and humiliated. The gala ended abruptly, with most guests unaware of the volcanic showdown that had taken place. Blake withdrew to his private study for the rest of the night, frantic with phone calls to lawyers. Caroline took a moment to process her triumph, though it was a hollow victory. She had loved Blake. Exposing him and Trixie felt simultaneously empowering and heartbreaking. In the days that followed, Apex Innovations was plunged into scandal. Nancy's legal team presented the board with conclusive evidence that Blake had compromised the company's finances by routing money into Trixie's shell company. Fearing damage to its public image and stock value, the board demanded Blake's resignation. He had no choice but to comply if he hoped to minimize legal repercussions. Caroline then filed for divorce, leveraging the recordings and financial evidence. Because she was pregnant and Trixie's infiltration threatened the child's financial security, Caroline pressed for a large settlement and demanded that Blake step away from any role that could disrupt her or the company. In the end, the negotiated terms included a substantial payout for Caroline and preservation of her shares in Apex. The legal settlement recognized her vulnerability as a betrayed, pregnant spouse. Trixie faced separate criminal charges for fraud and conspiracy, especially once investigations revealed illicit deals with her father. Though the scandal remained in headlines for weeks, Caroline channeled her energy into preparing for motherhood. She left the grand estate in San Francisco for a smaller but still elegant residence in Sausalito, a tranquil haven offering spectacular views of the Golden Gate Bridge. Day by day, she curated a serene nursery with celestial-themed decor, soft stars, gentle clouds, warm moonlight motifs, hoping to create a safe, loving environment for her baby. Near the end of her final trimester, she went into labor. Despite the swirling legal battles, she was blessed with a smooth delivery, giving birth to a healthy baby boy named Alexander Joseph Mayers. Holding Alexander in her arms, tears of relief and love flooded her eyes. This child, she vowed, would never suffer in an environment poisoned by deceit. The heartbreak she endured only strengthened her resolve to be a devoted, protective mother. Blake showed up at the hospital, pale and contrite, hoping to see his newborn son. Caroline allowed him to hold Alexander under the nurse's supervision. Though she harbored profound anger, she also recognized the child's right to know his father. Yet she refused Blake's tearful pleas for another chance. The betrayal ran too deep. Backed by significant shares in Apex Innovations, shares that soared when the scandal cleared and new leadership stabilized the firm, Caroline found herself with unexpected influence. The board, eager to restore public trust, encouraged her to assume a visible role. In the months after Alexander's birth, Caroline became a force within Apex, shaping philanthropic initiatives that were once overshadowed by Trixie's manipulations. She balanced motherhood and corporate responsibility, carving out a daily routine, caring for Alexander's feedings in the morning, attending board meetings in the afternoon, then returning home to savor bedtime stories and lullabies. She began speaking at events for women in tech, sharing her experiences of heartbreak, betrayal, and redemption. Invitations poured in, and her story turned from tabloid fodder to an inspiring narrative of resilience. Media outlets that once fixated on the humiliations of Blake's affair began spotlighting Caroline's philanthropic vision and personal growth. Blake, meanwhile, kept a low profile. He had lost his role in Apex and faced the scorn of peers who viewed his affair and shady finances as a case of hubris. Although he maintained minimal contact to see Alexander on agreed visitation schedules, Caroline ensured all of it was documented through her legal team to prevent further disputes. She had no interest in rekindling a relationship with a man who had so thoroughly betrayed her trust. Trixie Turner was convicted of financial fraud, paying for her manipulative infiltration. Public fascination with her downfall died out as she faded into obscurity. Her father similarly withdrew from the spotlight, his questionable ties to Apex severed. Months passed. Caroline thrived in her new leadership capacity at Apex Innovations. She modernized the company's philanthropic wing, building genuine scholarship programs and sponsoring tech labs in underserved communities. Her young son, Alexander, was a bright spot that lit her every day, giving her deeper motivation to create a stable, ethical environment for future generations. During an on-camera interview, a reporter asked, "How did you persevere after discovering your husband's betrayal while carrying his child?" Caroline smiled and replied that she realized her life and her baby were worth fighting for no matter the heartbreak. Her words, shared across social media, became a rallying cry for those facing adversity. She received countless messages from women who found courage in her story, each touched by her decision not to let infidelity or deception define her. Mothers in similar situations wrote to her about forging paths of strength and independence. The swirl of positive feedback buoyed Caroline's confidence further. She used her newly found platform not only to champion ethical business practices, but also to advocate for women's empowerment. Despite the legal complexities, the scandal gradually receded from public view, replaced by fresher news cycles. Caroline's achievements in combining motherhood, philanthropic leadership, and business success emerged as her defining legacy, overshadowing the heartbreak that first vaulted her name into tabloids. She never forgot the sting of betrayal, but in every private, quiet moment, rocking Alexander to sleep or glimpsing her reflection in the glass of a corporate skyscraper, she recognized how that painful discovery had been the catalyst for her transformation. Rather than collapsing under the weight of her husband's affair, she used the experience to chart an entirely new course, one shaped by honesty, fierce self-respect, and unwavering resolve. Blake's contrition arrived too late. She permitted him sporadic fatherly involvement for Alexander's sake, but held firm boundaries, ensuring she could govern her life without fear of another blindside. As she told her closest friends, she would always carry the emotional scars, but those scars underscored how far she had come. On a breezy evening, Caroline stood on her Sausalito balcony, gazing at the golden lights tracing the iconic bridge. Alexander slept peacefully in his crib, giving her a rare moment of solitude. She breathed in the crisp air, reflecting on the once dreamlike marriage that had crumbled under deception and the unstoppable chain of events that led her to expose Blake and Trixie. Now secure in her independence, she felt gratitude for the strength she discovered deep within herself. Caroline's new identity was not just the pregnant wife betrayed by a billionaire, but a mother, an influential board member, and a motivational figure for others facing betrayal. She had refused to bow to despair. Through strategic planning, steadfast friendships, and bold confrontation, she had seized control of a situation that once seemed impossible. In that final swirl of memory of chandeliers, tears, and secret recordings, Caroline recognized that dignity could triumph even in the face of unimaginable hurt. The heartbreak had forged her into someone resilient, compassionate, and bold. While the scars would remain, they were also the proof that she had survived the worst and come out better. In essence, she had turned the darkest moment of her life into a beacon for others, teaching anyone who would listen that betrayal could be confronted and justice could be served, even when one is alone and expecting a child. Over time, Caroline's name grew synonymous with a poignant combination of business acumen, maternal devotion, and personal integrity. Magazines and interviews lauded her transformation. Through diligence and legal cunning, she had rid Apex Innovations of corruption, all while nurturing a newborn and healing her own wounded heart. Her parents admired her fortitude, and her childhood friends, including Danielle, remained proud. Nancy Geller teased that with such formidable legal instincts, Caroline might as well become a lawyer herself. Michael Price, the private investigator, considered her case a personal highlight of his career, a moment where methodical evidence gathering aligned with moral justice. The door to her past never fully closed. Memories of her wedding day or the moment she told Blake she was pregnant sometimes surfaced, tinged with bittersweet reflection. Yet those recollections, once overwhelmingly sad, served as mile markers on the road she had traveled, a path from naive bride to empowered mother, from trusting spouse to an independent force shaping corporate philanthropy. Caroline's story spread across social media and the philanthropic world, where she became a sought-after speaker. Her message was simple yet profound. Even in a storm of heartbreak, you can reclaim your life. She often recounted how her baby's impending arrival galvanized her will to fight for a stable future, how crucial it was not to crumble into tears, but to take strategic action. In every sense, her new chapter was about hope and rebirth, from heartbreak to self-determination, from a tainted marriage to single motherhood done on her own terms. By the time Alexander took his first steps, Caroline was planning new expansions for Apex's scholarship programs, ensuring tech education for underprivileged youth. She poured love into her child and championed ethical leadership in the company that once symbolized her husband's greed. It was a triumph that transcended personal vengeance. Yes, Caroline had once seen Blake, her billionaire husband, cheating with another woman while she was pregnant, one of the harshest betrayals imaginable. Yet she refused the path of silent suffering. Instead, with unwavering resolve, she revealed the wrongdoing, forced accountability, and emerged with her autonomy and aspirations intact. Her tale stands as a stirring reminder that the worst betrayals can become catalysts for profound reinvention. Rather than crying herself to sleep, Caroline made him and everyone who colluded in his misdeeds pay the price, ensuring a brighter horizon for herself, her child, and the values she held dear. Caroline's journey highlights the power of a betrayed spouse who harnesses her heartbreak to forge an unbreakable path forward. She refused to be defined by her husband's affair, turning her pain into a strategic reclamation of her life. By meticulously collecting evidence, leaning on close allies, and confronting her husband's misconduct, Caroline claimed victory not just for herself, but for her unborn child's future. Her transformation from a naive wife in a gilded cage to a poised boardroom presence serves as an emblem of resilience, proving that even at one's lowest ebb, carrying a child while facing deception, a determined heart can prevail. May her story inspire those who feel trapped by betrayal to find their own strength and rise above. forging a destiny built on truth, dignity, and unbreakable resolve.